Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with you today because it's the mindfulness masterclass. And this is really important as we go into any Jewish holiday. And I wanted to kind of share with you a little bit about why. So thank you guys so much for joining. Time is very, very valuable resource. The fact that you're investing this time in yourself and in your mindfulness, I'm really honored that I get to walk with you on that journey today and maybe clear the path, show you some milestones, and have a lot of fun. So in order to start off kind of the fun, I wanted to share with you a little bit about my story. I don't know, these are some details I might not have shared before. It's my first time publicly teaching this class and not just doing it one-on-one. So some details, even if you've known me for a long time, you might not know. I don't know if you know that my parents tried to get me to take Ritalin, ADD medication, back in the day when I was about 10 years old. And it was back when they didn't need a doctor or a neurologist, like the school could just decide that you should probably be medicated. And so I was around 10 years old and I was a big daydreamer. I really had a hard time being present. Anybody know a 10-year-old like that? Who's like, oh, butterfly, like in class, thinking about other things, dreaming big dreams, and paying attention when I really had to. And so they would try to give me these pills called Ritalin. And once or twice, they would make me take them. They would like watch that I swallow them. And I just didn't feel right when I would take them. I was up one night, like for 24 hours, like I couldn't sleep. And I like cleaned the house from top to bottom. And my mom's like, oh, this is really nice, but you kind of look like a crazy person. I don't know. Another time they succeeded in getting me to take it. They tried hiding it in my food. They succeeded in getting me to take it. And I threw such a temper tantrum at age 10 that I burst the blood vessels in my face. Now you might think this is not very funny, but when I think back and I'm like, wow, how has the world changed? How has the world changed where behavior that was just daydreaming was, you better take a pill. Today, there's a whole system. There's a whole framework. I have 4 kids who actually have ADD, and some of them are medicated, some of them aren't. When they talk, they go to CBT, that's like stands for cognitive behavioral therapy, or they have emotional therapy in school because they have ADD, or someone is talking to them about their feelings and someone's helping them to be more present. And when I look back at like what a crazy time it is, I kind of have to laugh. A little bit like Sarah Imenu had to laugh at the thought of having a baby in her 90s. Like, that is ridiculous. And when I think about how ridiculous it was, all the crazy diets I tried, it's kind of ridiculous. I can think about the diet pills I tried. I can think about the times I was like, thought that I would never get married because of my weight. This crazy stuff. Hold on, everybody, let's make sure that everybody is muted. Excellent. Okay. Crazy stuff. And it's kind of ridiculous, but it's also, looking back, kind of funny. Because it's like, how was that the world we lived in? And that was normal. But guess what? When I look around me today, there are crazy things around us that we know should probably not be normal. Like 10 years ago, do you remember like when it was the thing to have themed mishlochei manot? And like you would have to put like a lot of effort into it, and it was like a theme. It's crazy. If you love crafting, like that is for you. But if you do not love crafting, that is a ridiculous, hysterical kind of thing that all of a sudden became normalized. There are so many crazy things that we take for granted are normal and that maybe you struggle against. And so I'm going to invite you guys today to like hands up in the air and just like all of this like angst and stress and thinking that we put in, let's release it, because it's not normal. It's just not normal. And there are so many ways to enjoy the holidays. And there are so many ways to enjoy Pesach. And there are so many ways to clean that it's not normal anymore to feel like it's spring cleaning for everybody. And if you don't keep up, you just can't make it. It's not normal anymore to have these crazy huge events, bar and bat mitzvahs, and to compare your event to everybody else's event. All this stuff, this comparing, this expectations of perfection, it's not normal anymore. Thank God Corona broke us all. We just said, I'm not available for that anymore. Who said they're not available for something over Corona? Right? Like just looked around and is like, yeah, I'm not available for that anymore and opted out. Anybody raise your hand? Did you opt out of something over Corona? And you're like, I don't think I can do that anymore. I'm not going to do that. So I've been through a lot in my life, and a lot of that had to do with an inner struggle to be present with my feelings, to be present with my emotions, to be present with what was going on in the moment. But when I was a little kid, it was always like, well, what's going to be on the next test? What's the next holiday? What's the next activity that we're doing? What's the next goal to meet? I didn't like just sitting down. Sitting down felt really boring. Anybody get like the itchy tuchus when they're like bored? They're like, shouldn't we be doing something? Can't I be doing something? My dad says that my mom cannot sit still for 5 minutes. She has to go clean something. She has to go clear something. Like she has itchy tuchus syndrome. Like she just can't sit down and like chill. And I picked that up from her. And so one of the best gifts about mindfulness is that we get to look at wherever we are on that spectrum. And we get to be like, oh, interesting. I'm going to learn to be more present because everything that's amazing is happening right now. All this stuff, all the goals, all the weight loss, all the achievements, all the success, that's not actually happening right now. I'm missing the miracle of the moment because I have itchy tuchus. So we're going to be a little funny today. We're going to be real, but we're going to really talk about how we get to mindfulness, because mindfulness is this magical spice that you have to create. You have to create it in your life because it's, there are so many studies over the last 15 years in this period of time, maybe only 25 years, actually. If I look at the dates in my studies in front of me, it's 25 years, which is really about, I'm 39. So about that time when they were medicating everybody and on the time that everyone was like fad diets and all the pills and all the fasting and all the starving and all the things and the injections, and God knows what everybody tried back then to today, there's this amazing body of work that talks about how mindfulness lowers blood pressure, helps you live longer, is foundational for a great marriage, for great parenting, for the spiritual relationship with God that you want. How it's proven that the more you increase mindfulness, you increase your ability to maintain a weight within your BMI. That binge eating, emotional eating, overeating all go down as your mindfulness skills increase. But who wishes it was a magic button and that right now we could hit the button and the glitter would fall from the ceiling, and we'd dance and we would be mindful. It's like such a compelling fantasy. Like, I just want to hit that red button like on a game show. And down comes the confetti and the balloons. You figured. And then you're like, okay, now what? Now I have this, right? I have like my Miss America banner on. I am mindful. I am mindful. I am mindful. I am mindful. No, it doesn't work like that. So what we're going to also do today is we're going to talk about, what does it look like to become more mindful? What if it's a spectrum? What if it's part of our divine work as Jewish women, divine as Jewish people, but we're all women, so we're going to talk about women. The more that as an adult, I go back and I learn Torah that I learned as a kid. I'm very blessed that I had a good Jewish education, but with the perspective and wisdom of age, it's like a totally different experience. I'm going to give you an example. I was writing in my journal this morning. I really want to be more mindful about blessings. I know how important they are. I'm looking at the food and I'm like thinking I'm grateful. I'm even like turning on a class sometimes when I'm eating or whatever. And halfway through the salad, I remember I didn't make a bracha. I look at the food, I hand it to my kids and I'm like, oh, make a bracha. How come I can't remember? I said, Hashem, can you just send me? I need like a ritual. There has to be like a ritual, because when I sit down now, I think about, is there a protein? Is there a vegetable? Is there a cup of water? I can't think about, did I make a bracha? What is wrong with me? Who has asked that question? What is wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with me. I wasn't asking the right question. How can I, instead of over focusing on, is this the right amount of carbs, be asking the better question, am I being mindful? What am I doing here? Why am I eating? What's happening? Is God here with me? What's going on? And so I wrote in my journal and I kind of left it and I said, Hashem, like, this is my personal work I'm inviting you into right now, where I am on the journey. And 2 hours later, my husband and I sat down to learn our page of Shar B'Tachon in the morning, and he was heading out to work. And he's like, wait, I have to go wash Netilat Yadayim. And I'm like, is that a thing that we're doing now? Like, we're washing Netilat Yadayim before we learn? I didn't know that we did that. And he goes, well, I've been trying, when you touch your shoes and you get dressed and you're touching anything, or before you eat, like on Pesach with Karpas, first you wash your hands and you don't make a bracha. And he's like, I have to go to the bathroom. I'm like, do we do that? I don't think I've ever seen like anybody do that. Like, really, like I see the cup in the bathroom everywhere, but like, I don't really see people do that. Do we do that? And he's like, yeah, it's like a ritual. And I'm like, thank you, God. Thank you for handing me that wisdom that I asked for 2 hours ago. What would be a ritual that I could add to my meals that would help me to like just set an intention, be more mindful? Oh, I could just wash my hands, because I'm always touching stuff. I don't know. Are you a mother? Are you a woman? Like, do you not touching things all the time? Like, touch your hair, touch your shoes, touch your dishes. Like, it's always a good idea to wash your hands before you eat. So like, if I wash my hands before I eat vegetables, I'd be doing like bringing God into that picture. And then I'd be more likely to maybe say a blessing earlier before I took the first bite. And if I didn't, and if I only started to wash my hands once every 5 times, but I started to build that into my life, wow, that could make a big difference. So today, if we're in this place of like, oh, I'm not even thinking about what I'm eating right now at my desk while I'm doing 8 other things. I don't know what I'm eating. I don't know why I'm eating. I have no time for any of this. Then don't worry. We're going to make this really small and bite-sized, because the fact that I could even ask that question is like losing 80 pounds and keeping it off, and keep asking myself, if I want to keep this off forever, then it has to be about more than my ego. It can't just be because I want to look good in clothes. Want to look good in clothes is such a good motivator in the morning when you're getting dressed and like the random time you walk by the mirror in the bathroom. But the rest of the day, it's not really a motivator. What really drives us, what really makes things last forever, is when we make them part of our identity, part of our values, part of our spiritually backed practice. And God knew that. And that's why food is essential part of Jewish culture, because we interact with food the most. Probably number two is money and then people, right? Like those are the three things we interact with most throughout the day. So I'm going to open up for questions before we continue, but I want to invite everybody to take their hot drink, if they have a hot drink that they brought to the session, and just put it in your hands for a minute. Now, I asked everyone to bring a mug, because in a mug, you can feel the heat, right? Who can feel the heat of their beverage through the cup? You feel the heat? Now I want you to look down and look at the color. I have a decaf coffee with soy milk here. And see if you could just smell it for a minute. And then I want you to make a shahakol. If you are not so observant, you can just thank God that you have the ability to digest, that He created everything in the world. And I want you to take a sip and pay attention to how it tastes. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'hakol niyeh b'dvaro. Think about the act of swallowing. Such a miracle. You know, there are people who can't swallow and they have to have like a feeding tube down their throat. Did you feel the warmth going down your chest into your stomach? I've drinking a cup of decaf coffee a million times. I think probably tea just as much. And I'm rarely mindful. Let's try one more. I came aware of a slightly different texture, like just what it feels like to swallow a liquid versus solid. But we're not going to be doing that at every meal, every day, ever. Not in our today's modern life. But when once in a while, we recognize how many amazing miracles there are in the act of eating, when we catch ourselves eating something less nutritious, maybe not aligned in our goals, maybe we're eating something and while we're eating it, we're like, why am I eating this? I don't even love it. Try to lean into this moment. If I'm going to eat this, I'm going to pay attention to what it feels like to swallow it, to what the texture is. I'm going to be present while I eat this thing, and I'm going to enjoy it. And then I can stop or I can continue. But especially when we're feeling so vulnerable or so habit loop triggered by our environment. The brownies are out and I walked by the brownies and I walked by the brownies and I said no to the brownies and I walked by them again. And then I walked by them again and I meant to put them away and someone took them out again. Who has that happened to? You put them away and someone else takes them out and leaves them on the sabotage. It's not. And you take a bite and you catch yourself and you're taking the third bite and you go to this moment. Did I make a bracha on this yet? Probably not. Right? I'm telling you, I catch myself there. Being honest, too many times. Okay, I'm going to make a mizonot. I'm going to focus on the miracle that I can actually even physically eat this brownie. My body can digest all the calories in this brownie. All the sugar is going to go into my bloodstream. That's actually a miracle, not a curse. And my body knows what to do with it. It's going to excrete it. I'm going to go drink some water now. I just experienced a miracle. I have a really great story that I heard in a lecture this week and I want to share it with you guys. But first, I'd love to take a minute and check in with the group. Who had an insight so far when you took a sip of that coffee? Anybody have anything that kind of resonated with you? Anything that spoke to you? Anything that was maybe an experience you've never had before? Meira, was that a raise your hand? Anybody? Something you want to share?
I can share something,
Please.
even though I didn't drink the coffee, because I have been so crazy that I didn't even know about this bringing the mug.
That's
And
okay.
that's where I am today. And that's why I felt that it's important for me to be on, even though my life is chaotic. And I try to remember that that's when I need this the most. So I'm patting myself for showing up.
Yeah.
And I'm just like so depleted. And I'm just trying to hang on. Just trying to hang on and just keep doing what I need to do despite the exhaustion. And I know that it's too much for me what I'm doing. And certain things I just can't say no to, and I have to do them. So I'm trying to, in other times, do things that nourish me and that fill me up and that is self-care. But I'm just beyond that. I haven't even had a chance to watch one video to even know about this mug. All I knew was that we have calls, and it's been like, I really have to watch that video, and then deadlines at work. It's been like the most crazy time that I can ever remember with work and with family obligations, and not saying no to kids. Can you babysit? Of course I can babysit. And like my trainer is like, you need to learn how to say no. Like I came in there and I'm like dead. And like, again, certain things I'm trying not to let, like at least keeping certain, I know I'm totally off on a tangent, so I hope it's okay.
That's right.
But
pull you back in a minute. It's all good. It's all part of being mindfulness.
And, like I work out Tuesday and Thursday with somebody who runs a small group, and it's like almost like personal training. And almost always, as exhausted as I am, I push myself through that door. And so there are certain boundaries that I'm just trying not to give up for myself. These calls, the personal training, eating the right foods. But when I'm so wiped, the food becomes so hard for me.
So true.
Anyway,
So true.
I'm rant over.
I think that's exactly when we need it most. What's the idea now? I want you to like put yourself for a minute, if you don't mind. Can we do a little work? Okay, take some deep breaths. I want you to imagine right now, when we take a deep breath, you're taking in oxygen into your lungs. Just keep taking some deep, deep breaths with me, okay? Imagine like the light of the oxygen is like coming in through your nose and your mouth. And it's being held in your lungs, and it's going in, it's being absorbed. That light is being absorbed. It's going into your heart. And then it's like whoosh, through the body. And then it's coming back. And it's going back into your chest, and you're blowing out everything else. Let's practice that for a minute. Go. Breathing in the light. It's in our heart, through our body, back into our heart, and out our mouth. One more time. I think the most amazing part about bringing God into this relationship with food, and into this relationship with busyness, and this relationship with people pleasing, and this relationship with Chagim coming up, and gosh, like taking off of work and the work backing up, and the kids and their needs and their expectations, like breathing is a miracle. That oxygen goes in, lights up your whole body, and all the waste, all the carbon dioxide goes out. And every time we go back into our breath, it's a moment to be like, it's not my job to save everybody. if you think back to all these holidays that we have coming up, Esther just had to save herself. She went in and she just had to save herself, and she just had to save herself, and she just had to save herself until she was in this position of power where she could ask the king, okay, like, can you save everybody? But it's like a process. She didn't just get to go ask him. She had to like go ask him to come to a party, to come to a second party. But we don't give ourselves that process, right? It's not like, well, I need some sleep and I need my workout and I need to catch up on work. And then I will be totally available to babysit, right? It's like, no, no, no. I have to ask for everyone else to be saved and just figure out somewhere in the middle. I'm going to just take care of me. And we all have to resist this. We all do.
But certain things cannot be resisted.
Right.
You have to pay your bills. You can't say no to work.
That's right. You have to pay your bills. Have to pay your bills. We have to clean our house. We have to get some food in our body. But if we're doing it alongside the person who runs the entire universe, who heals our kids, who makes sure they have babysitters, who makes sure their needs are met, and makes sure that all of that is okay, we're supposed to take care of doing our job, bringing in the money that we need to make, feeding ourselves, putting that, so I'm going to tell you guys the story and then we're going to come back. So there's this father who's the king, right? Because in Jewish parables, they love to make the king the father because we're all royalty, really. But let's say he's like the most wealthy CEO. Okay. He has all the money and his kid is sick. His kid needs to get better. And he's trying all of the medicines. He is making appointments with every specialist. Have we all been there? Have we all had a kid who's sick, who we had to make appointments with specialists? And if you live in Israel, we have people from all over here, but I'm sure in America also, it's a pain in the butt, but in Israel, it's like a special, unique kind of help. And you're making all these doctor's appointments and you go to one tipul and one treatment and it doesn't work. And you go to another treatment and it doesn't work. And you are pouring money down the toilet from one treatment to another treatment. And then they say to you, okay, there's one treatment and you got to grind up diamonds. And we have to grind it into a powder because your kid is so sick, they can't even eat the diamond anymore. And then we're going to mix it with water. But now they're barely swallowing. So we're going to just pour the water down and whatever they can swallow, they're going to swallow. And as they get a little better, they'll swallow a little more. And as they get better, they'll swallow a little more. But this is going to work. And you don't have the diamonds and you don't have the money because you've just spent all this money. But you are the CEO. You call up all your friends, you call up all your contacts, you say, who can help me? And help pours in. We've all been there, right? I can't do it alone. And you waste half the diamonds on their face, but they get in a little bit and they start to get better, right? You know that moment when your kid's fever breaks or they're in therapy for the first time and you start to see them getting better and you're like, oh, thank you, God. And it gets a little better and it gets a little better. And then they're driving you crazy because they're running around the house, but they're not well enough to go back to school yet. And you keep feeding them those diamonds. Well, guess what? Every single one of us gets sick sometimes. Did you hear that from her?
I went down to get a tea.
Okay. You missed the story, but every single one of us gets really sick sometimes. Emotionally, overwhelmed, overworked, over anxious. And being mindful is like diamonds. And sometimes we have to crush up those diamonds and we got to mix them with a lot of water. And the best that we can do is just showing up without the hot beverage, just showing up. And a little bit goes in and we get a little bit better. And we're like, oh my gosh, this feels so good. And we get a little bit more in and we feel better. And then all of a sudden we're driving ourselves crazy because we think we should be all better, back at school, achieved everything in our dream that we've ever wanted to achieve. And we're frustrated with ourselves again. Anybody relate to that? This expectation that things get a little better, they get a little better. And then you're like, oh, and I should be perfect now. When we go into these Jewish holidays, got to remember that like mindfulness, the stuff we're going to learn today, it's diamonds. It's precious as it is. But the most precious thing is that we get it into our system. So grind it up really small, mix it with water, get a little bit in. It doesn't matter how much you miss. It doesn't matter how many videos you don't watch. Whatever gets in is going to make you healthier. As you get healthier, you could take in more. So this was from Rabbi Manis Friedman, that story, and it's based on teachings in Hasidus, and I just thought it was really beautiful. Who really liked that story? Anybody relate to that story? Mira, what resonated for you?
Well, you have the image of crushing up diamonds and swallowing them. You know, like you wouldn't, not something that most of us do every day or ever. And the preciousness, the incredible expense of those things. And yet that's the cure.
Yeah.
And you just, you start where you are. You take a little bit and you get a little better, and then you can take more and you can get more better. And it's a process. It's a process.
So whatever feels over your head today, just let it go, because then it wasn't for you today. You can always come back and watch this again later. Mindfulness is a practice. It's not a goal. It's not an outcome. It's not an achievement. And I tell you, I struggle with this myself right alongside you. I'm like, I am being so mindful about what I'm eating. How come I can't remember to always say the blessing before I eat? And it was really hurting me. And it almost was turning me off. I'm putting too much pressure on myself. Maybe trigger warning. Maybe I shouldn't do it. It's too much pressure. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking about eating more vegetables. Oh my gosh, it's so much pressure. What if I shouldn't do it? I'm feeling diet mindset. No. The answer isn't to run away. The answer is like, oh, insert diamond mixed with compassionate water. Diamond insert with some grace. Drop at a time. Oh, you mean now before you finish the meal, you remember to make a blessing? And then you actually remember to make the end blessing, because now you're almost done eating. So it's like win-win. Okay, go ahead, Sherry.
So I have in different times in my life done meditation, guided meditation, and I see and feel and have felt, I mean, especially now, the benefit and like the calmness. And that's like what I've been trying to do through this process, is like what I learned is like, I just need to keep coming back to calm. And then that will help me to stay aligned. I get all of that. There's something about the act of eating that at that time, yeah, I'm just so used to eating and doing something else. And I know it's not the way it's supposed to be. Like eating while I'm typing my report, and eating while I'm just relaxing and reading a book or watching a video or whatever it is. And there's something about it that, like, as soon as I put down the book or turn over my phone and try to be mindful, all this anxiety comes up. And it's not like regular meditation, because you're not meditating, you're doing something, you're eating. So it's like that struggle is difficult for me. I've tried it. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I know what the practice is supposed to be, but the practice, like I can't seem to get past that anxiety that bubbles up as soon as, and it makes sense. Like food is like scary, and it's, even though I know like I'm eating something healthy, it's just what, like it's the default, and I want to get past, like I want to be successful at it. So it's not so easy.
Yeah. So first of all, can everybody just like hold some space? Because who hasn't felt that? I felt that. I still do not eat all my meals mindfully. I still read a book at the same time. I will listen to a Torah class at the same time. My favorite is to sit with another human being. I'm so much more satisfied by my food when I eat with another person. And here's what's really interesting about that. What if there's nothing wrong with you? What if?
That's fine.
What
And
if?
first of all, I don't think that like eating with someone is I think that's healthy. I don't think you have to be mindful of the food as much as like you could do both at the same time. Ooh, this is tasty, and talking, that's a healthy meal. But when it's all like we're just also like in such an overly stimulated world,
Yeah.
like to, except for Shabbat, to all of a sudden stop in the middle of the day and make it such a slow process of eating, it just feels boring, and the anxiety, and it's hard. Like it's hard for me to like understand that I'm ever going to be there.
Diamond, right? And let's mix it with some water and like grind it up. So let's take that diamond, let's grind it up. What does that look like? That's like, okay, I'm not ready to sit for 5 minutes and eat my food without my phone or a book. Okay. What if we just accept that that's okay? I am ready to start to get my nervous system acclimated to eating is not scary. In our flow workshop, and we start to do a little NLP, right? So everybody put yourself on mute if you're not on mute for a second, and let's try that out. Who feels like eating is so anxiety provoking? Try to say it. Eating is so anxiety provoking, right? Maybe part of you agrees with that statement. Eating is so now let's try. Eating food is a sensational experience full of sensations. Eating food is a full-on sensational experience. It's full of sensation. Eating feels like all 5 senses are turned on. Eating feels like I'm activated. Find something that works with you that's not too triggering. Eating feels like I'm activated. Eating feels satisfying. Eating feels textual. Eating is part of life. Eating is part of life. Eating is, take a minute, try out a few different ones, and then let me know in the chat which one you want to focus on. Let's think about it. Which one felt neutral for you? Not like felt true. Felt true. Eating is. Write down your statement. Let's see them come up in the chat. Part of life. Eating is part of life. Who else has one to put in? Eating is? We got to choose a new framework, a new belief. Eating is. Not anxiety provoking. Eating keeps me alive. Eating gives me pleasure. Eating gives me pleasure. Eating keeps me alive. Eating is joyful. Eating is joyful. Lynn, Rivka, Adina, anybody? Eating is? This is the work. This is why we get on a call, why we get coached, so that we do ask ourselves the hard questions. Meira, what is eating for you? Eating is a sensual experience. I use all my senses. Amazing. Eating is a sensual experience. I use all my senses. Oh, that's weird, AJ. I'm seeing myself. Okay. Lynn, eating is?
Eating for me is substance.
Satisfying. Substance? What does that mean to you? What does substance mean?
I don't want to skip breakfast unless I'm sleeping late. And I don't want to skip the lunch or the dinner. I usually don't snack. I just don't have to, I don't think of it.
Yeah.
And so just to be able to do that, then move on. Now get this, that done. But I'm enjoying those wonderful meals that I'm always preparing in advance. So it's easy to play
Good.
this.
Good. And even in the evening. Even in the evening.
Even in the evening. My nemesis is still from Sunday night's call. My nemesis is still getting the water in and getting the sleep.
Getting the water and the sleep. Yeah. And again, mindfulness practice will help with that, because we're going to talk about that in a second. Eating is a chore. That's okay. Eating is a chore. So if eating is a chore, you're going to ask yourself, like, why is eating even an issue? Like, who likes to do more chores? Right? Like, if eating is really a chore for you, then, like, is eating chocolate a chore? Or are we only talking about vegetables here? Like, is all eating a chore? If eating chocolate is sexy and eating vegetables is a chore, then it's very clear, right, what the outcome is going to be. These statements really kind of bring up, and we choose whatever we repeat to ourselves, whatever that core belief is. It's like the seed that we're eating the fruit of right now in our life. Eating is to be savored.
And Lily, don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. I'm really
Sure.
enjoying what I'm making and
Yeah.
enjoying it while I'm eating it.
Good. Excellent. So now for you, you want to apply this to, like, the same mindfulness that we're talking about with food. Like, think about the evening. Think about the evening. Think about, am I savoring my evening? Am I preparing myself to be successful? What's going on? It's the same practice, but we want to look at where we're moving to. So I'm going to ask everyone to mute yourself again. And I want to just define what mindful eating is. We talked a little bit about it as if we all know what it is, but I'm not sure that we really do. Mindful eating as being aware and then being decisive. Not just being aware of what you're eating, but making a choice, setting an intention. That's the difference between awareness and mindfulness. Awareness is, I'm aware that I'm eating. I'm aware of the textures. I'm aware. You can be reading a book and be aware at the same time, right? You can be aware that you're eating. But are you being mindful? Less so. Mindful is being fully aware and then making a decision on how you're going to act. Mindful is I'm mindful of my state and my action, my reaction to that state. That's the difference between mindfulness and awareness. And a lot of times we confuse awareness and mindfulness. We can't be mindful without awareness. But remember, we talked about mindfulness as this diamond. Well, like some of those crumbs that are getting in there is increasing awareness. Who's had the experience of like, you're really working on mindfulness and like you're eating stuff and you don't want to be eating it, but you keep eating it, but you're not even enjoying it and you're eating it and you're becoming more aware that this is not working for you and you're not stopping. Everybody been there? That's getting in diamonds. That's swallowing diamonds. Oh, I'm increasing my awareness. I'm increasing my awareness, but I didn't know I get to make a choice. I get to make a choice and I can allow myself to eat it without guilt or shame. I can have had the longest day from, all right? The longest day and be so depleted and like, oh, it's so hard to make good choices now. Maybe. But am I being mindful or am I just being aware of how tired I am? When I'm aware of how tired I am, I'm not being mindful. When I'm aware of how tired I am, and then I ask myself, and what would be the nicest thing I could do for myself right now? What would be the kindest thing I could do for myself right now?
And the nicest or kindest things doesn't necessarily mean what will feel good in the moment.
Yeah. The same way, you really want to be saying yes to your daughter or you wouldn't be doing it. It's not easy in the moment to say yes. You're overworking yourself in 3 other areas, but you really want to be there for her, right? Because you know it's kind and you know you care and you're putting her first. How many of us as parents don't regret a time that we put our kid first, even though we kind of got burned out? Can everybody relate to that? Like we don't actually regret it. We really put the other person first. That's where we had awareness, but we weren't mindful. Because just like eating is like this miracle, there's this miracle called we don't run the world. We think we do. We think we can prophesize and we know the future. Because do you know that if all of us really knew the future, we would all be independently wealthy, living on an island because we know exactly what stock to pick, right? And it would be like we would just be God because we know the future. We think we can predict the future based on past. Well, I always fail at this. Well, he always responds this way. Well, when I'm tired, I always go to the chocolate. AJ, whatever you're doing with your screen is super distracting. I don't know if maybe we cannot see what you're scrolling or whatever. That would be super awesome. Yeah. So what do you guys think? What if mindfulness versus awareness? Mindfulness is, I'm so tired at the end of this day. Meir is going through this crazy, like, healing process, right? Oh, I'm in so much pain at the end of the day. I don't want to make good decisions. I don't want to like have to do stuff. But if I'm mindful, I'm like, wow, with that compassion, that same compassion of like not being perfect, like if I'm going to eat chocolate, like what would at least be the best, most loving way I could eat chocolate? What would be the best, most loving way I could eat the pretzels? What would be the best, most loving way that I could, if I wasn't going to go to sleep, Lynn, what would be the most best and loving thing I could be doing while I'm not willing to go to sleep yet? That's mindfulness versus awareness. But guess what? I'm not eating diamonds yet either. We're grinding it up. We're mixing it with water and we're not going to be perfect. So what does that look like? What does building a healthy relationship with food look like? Anybody ever like really struggled with eating while watching TV? Anybody? Eating while watching TV? I remember when eating when watching TV started for me. My parents came home after us. We'd get home from school and our lunch would be waiting for us. And we would go and we would sit in front of the TV and we would eat. And it was like, oh, school's over. I'm not doing homework yet. Watch TV and eat. And that is so deep in my nervous system as no responsibility that anytime I get super, super overwhelmed with life, it is like, such a pull. TV dinners on TV trays, right? TV dinners on TV trays. I watch my kids on Friday afternoon and Saturday night. Those are the only 2 times they have like screen time. And they always can't wait. They want to eat while they watch. They want to eat their lunch while they watch. They want to eat their dinner while they watch. And it's hard for me to make them wait. I'm not always successful at doing it. To be like, no, I want you to finish your dinner, because then I'm prophesizing the future. And I'm like, well, if I make them eat their dinner and then watch, then they're not going to go to bed. And then this is going to happen. And then this is going to happen. And you know that escalating anxiety Sherry was talking about? When you look at food, it's your nervous system for years and years and years of fear of what this food is going to do to me, instead of years and years and years of gratitude of like, oh my gosh, this is life-saving. This is a miracle. I have so much food to eat. Like, I don't have that saved in my nervous system. I don't have that level of gratitude and appreciation like imprinted on me. When I look at a plate of food, I'm like, oh, yes. But I'm parenting myself as an adult. Reparenting. Anybody feel like they need to be reparented sometimes? Yeah. Reparenting. Oh, like, you should really go to bed, sweetie. Like, lights out. Do you really want to eat that? Like, come on, sweetheart. Like, do you need to talk about your feelings? Like, do you need me to like make you an appointment? Do you need to go to the dentist? Like, we need to be reparented by ourselves sometimes. And that's what building a healthy relationship with food is like. It's seeing, oh, I have this anxiety around food. And like, well, if my kid said that to me and I wanted to be like my best parenting, like, what would I do? What would I do for them? Would I sit with them when they ate? Would I be like, oh, okay, right? Here's a minute. Let's take 1 minute. Yeah, I just gained control over your body over the past year, and you can enjoy that it's doing something good to your body. That's so beautiful, Sherry. But all of us can be there no matter how much weight we've lost, right? It's right now, this body, this food is healing me, even if it's with white sugar. This food is healing me because I'm eating it like it's a miracle. And then can you imagine eating an entire chocolate bar thinking that every bite is a miracle? You're not going to do it, because inside, you know you want to be healthy. You know you want better for yourself. That's why this is a master class. This isn't a beginner's. You already know you want to eat the diamonds. We're just trying to figure out how to save your life, how to get them in the water, how to grind them up, how to get them in the cup, how to get enough in your system that you start to heal. Because the more you heal, the more you're able to drink. And then the more you're able to eat them in solid rock form. And then, like, guess what? We have our entire life. We have our entire life, the mitzvot around food. And why they are so integral to Jewish culture is they are the #1 way you interact with the world God created. The most germs and bacteria you come in contact with your immune system, all through your gut, all through your stomach, all through the food you eat. Your nervous system, your mental health. Why is mindfulness so crazy with mental health? Because your blood pressure, your hormones, everything that's coming, that's being affected by your food affects your brain chemistry. Otherwise, we wouldn't want to eat food when we're feeling things. So like, it's okay if this takes time. You're going to get the benefits. You're going to be healing and getting better and better and better every single day for the rest of your life. even and especially on the days when you're growing your awareness, because you get more aware and then you can get more mindful. Getting more aware and then you're going to get more mindful. So I want to do a quick thing with you and then we're going to check in. Okay. Anybody struggle to tell how hungry they physically are? Anybody only like check in with their mental hunger? Like, do I want to eat or is this yummy? Okay. If you're asking yourself, is it time to eat? Write that down. Is it time to eat? Does this look yummy? Am I hungry? Then you're like not being mindful. You're being all up here in your head. There's nothing happening here in our body. And for so many of us, especially women, it's really hard to be in our body because there's a lot of uncomfortable stuff happening. We're feeling uncomfortable emotions. We're feeling physical discomfort, depending on our age, right? It could be hormones around our periods, could be premenopausal, could be menopausal. There's like hot to cold. I'm sitting in this chair too long at my computer. Like there's a lot of physical sensations happening that we do not want to be mindful of. We want to be all up here. What do I need to do? What would taste good right now? What would feel good right now? So we're going to do a quick check-in. And I'm going to ask everybody to sit down in your chair. Okay. Shake it out for a minute because we just did like, you know, an hour. We're running out. We're finishing up. Okay. And I want you to imagine like a grocery store scanner, you know, like that red light, right? Like it's looking for the barcode and it's kind of just going down your head. And I want you to feel your forehead. If you really are struggling to feel it, like scrunch it up and then release. What does my forehead even feel like? I don't know when the last time, is there any tension there? Is there anything going on there? Feel your eyes. Feel your nose. Feel around your mouth, your cheeks. Feel your jaw. Now we're going to start on the right side of the body. Feel your right side of your neck. I'm going to go into your shoulder. Feel your right upper arm. Feel your right lower arm. Feel your fingers in your right hand. Go back up to your armpit. Feel your armpit. Your upper chest on your right side. Your lower chest under your ribs. Feel your stomach on your right side. Feel your hip. Now we're going to go back up to the left shoulder. Feel your neck to your left shoulder, that space between the neck and the left shoulder. Take some deep breaths. Try to feel anything going on there. Do I feel anything or do I just feel numb? Do I feel a lack of feeling? Feel your upper left arm. Feel from the elbow to the wrist. Feel the palm of your left hand. Feel your fingers in your left hand. Feel your left armpit, your upper chest by your ribs. Feel your lower chest under your ribs. Feel your stomach. Feel the left side of your hip. Feel your left butt cheek on the chair. Feel your right and your left butt cheeks pressing on the chair. Take 2 deep breaths and slowly open your eyes. Now I'm going to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being completely stuffed, Thanksgiving, Shabbos, long Pesach Seder meal. 1 being like ravenously hungry, end of a fast day, and you've been thinking about food for an hour. I want you to write in the chat between 1 and 10. What number hunger are you right now? What number hunger are you right now? Six. 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 Ooh, look, we're all nice and sixes. Five. Five. Amazing. Do you think that if I would have asked you before we did that exercise, what layer of hunger you are, you would have been able to answer that question? No. We're not asking ourselves how hungry we are. This, it's 5 o'clock at night. It's a perfect time. Already said 5. It's 5 o'clock at night. It makes sense that you should be at a good, you would have said way more hungry. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? So I had way more I wanted to cover today. And for everybody who's not in my group coaching program, we're going to finish up now with just a quick tour through the Thrive Well coaching program. When I work with somebody one-on-one, we talk about the Plate It system. And for all of you guys who work with me currently, I want you to think about how this applies to when you make your plates of food. When you plate your food, stop asking, ooh, does this look delicious? Food is a sensational experience. Eating is a miracle. This is going to feel good. You're going to eat. Eating feels good. Ask yourself, how hungry am I? How hungry am I on a scale of 1 to 10? For sure, your food is going to taste good. Food was created to taste good. And if we haven't figured out how to make healthy food taste good yet, we will do that, I promise. But the more you ask yourself, how hungry am I? And you get into your body for a second, all of a sudden, when you ask yourself, how hungry am I? You're automatically thinking about real food. No one asks themselves, how hungry am I? And wants to grab a Snickers bar. What am I in the mood for? It's a totally different question. How am I feeling? How stressed am I? Completely different question. How hungry am I? What would be the kindest way to eat that? What would be the kindest way to eat that? And remember, this isn't about eating without any devices, never standing. It's about wherever you are on that spectrum, adding in the ground up diamond mixed with water. What's the best way? I could be a little bit more mindful. Could I set an alarm? Could I, when I journal my food, ask myself, how hungry was I when I started eating? How hungry am I when I finish my plate? Before I take seconds, how hungry am I on that scale of 1 to 10? If we're at an 8 or 9, okay, I mean, if we're at like a, an 8 or 9, a fullness, like we really don't want to be eating anymore because we're not hungry anymore, right? Start to think about like, oh, I don't want to get to a 1. When you're at a 1 of hunger, you're in survival mode. It's life or death. So don't get there. Eat when you get to a 3 or 4 of hunger. Go to a 6 or an 8 of satisfaction, right? Am I hungry? No, I'm good. Stay in that, like Sherry was saying, that calm place. But even if you're eating chocolate, even if you're eating a cookie, when you're sitting at the Suda or you're sitting at your Seder table, how hungry am I? This is a miracle. One of the other big staples of working in Thrive Well in our group program or one-on-one is really when you're tracking your food, it's not about calories. It's not about the perfect mix of carbs or proteins or vegetables. It's about, am I hungry? Did I meet my hunger? Can I look at what I ate with mindfulness after the fact, with as much grace and compassion as possible? Because maybe I just got a little bit sicker today. Maybe I just tuned out. And give yourself grace if you turned out. Sometimes we get a little sicker before we get better, right? Who's like been taking antibiotics and completely missed a day and then gotten sicker? Ever happened to anybody? It's happened to me. like you're taking antibiotics, you're taking it, you're getting better. And then you're like, oops, the day got away from me. Totally didn't take my medicine today. And you start to get a little sicker and you go, Jack, take it again. Okay. We all have to go. So I want you to take the tools that you're learning and apply them. I'd love to open up the floor now. And just before anybody have any final questions before we log off? And the people who are in the group coaching program are going to come back on and ask any final, like you have a Q&A session. But anybody generally, anybody have any questions? Meira, Rivka, Lynn, anybody, Adina, AJ, anybody have any questions about mindful eating? Anything you learned today that you want to share, any takeaways that you had?
I have a question.
Sure.
It's a Pesach question.
Yeah.
I'll say right away that I am not strict with myself about this. But
Sure.
Dafka because of my relationship with food. How would you, Lily, what's the word? Oh gosh, like how would you split? No, I can't think of the word, but like,
Sure.
what about having to eat all those kazayot measurements
Of matzah.
of matzah? And not only that, you're supposed to believe that this is actually healing your body at 12 o'clock at night. Yeah.
Yeah. It really goes into this.
Oh, wait, what's the
Yeah,
word?
please
Sorry.
go ahead.
Sorry, I'm trying to think of that word I'm sorry. I
No,
couldn't think.
if it comes to it, ask. It's such a good
Okay.
question. So I'm 100% honest. I eat dinner before the Seder at like 5-6 p.m. And we asked the Shaila years ago, and when you do karpas, you can have a huge, like tremendously huge platter of cut veggies with dip, right? And so I have
You
that.
can?
Yep.
Because we're
You can
always
just
told
keep
only
eating
take a tiny
vegetables.
piece.
Nope, you can keep eating. I mean, like, again, talk to your local Orthodox rabbi. But once you make that adama, you can have as much vegetable. So we do like a huge, gorgeous vegetable platter. And I do pitchers and pitchers of water. And I get high fiber matzah. And I drink lots of water. And I eat the matzah. And I really believe that, like, if I'm really doing this all year long, right? I'm eating because I'm supposed to eat, and God's the one who's gonna make me healthy. Like, how many people have you seen who took such amazing care of their health and dropped dead like this? And how many people don't take care of their health and live to 120 years old, okay? But yet we know statistically through nature, if we take care of ourselves, we're gonna have a better life. Same way, there are people who like win the lottery, and the rest of us, right? We have to put money away in an investment account, okay? Okay, so it's the same thing. So if we really believe
that,
go ahead.
it's not just that. It's that, like, I don't want to feel this rock of matzah on my stomach and in my body the next day. I won't do it.
So you don't have to. I mean, for me, there's lots of different things of how big a kazayit has to be. But the only matzah I eat on Pesach is at the Seder. And I eat every bite, and I drink 3 liters of water probably at the Seder. Because between everyone, I drink water. And then guess what? I am not hungry the next morning. But I take my psyllium, which if you get capsules, check with your local rabbi. You can use on Pesach. And by the afternoon, I feel fine. And I've never had a weight gain since I started doing that. When I get back on the scale after the second day, Pesach, I've never had a weight gain because I'm really doing it because it's a mitzvah. And I'm not eating a big Suda, then maybe have a bowl of chicken soup at midnight, maybe not even. I've had tons of vegetables. I've had matzah. I've had the charoset. I've had the lettuce on the matzah. And that is the matzah I eat on Pesach. I used to also make matzah bread once or twice with the matzah. But over time, I was like, I used to make it because I wanted to know I could have it. Also, it didn't cost me to gain any weight. Okay, because you have one piece of high fiber matzah, half a slice, which is 1 whole slice of bread, with some egg and egg white, and you do it in spray pan and a little Ceylon on top, because I loved it as a kid. And then just over years, it just stopped having the same emotional like oomph it used to have. Maybe this year I'll have it because I mentioned it, but I don't know. Just generally, I don't like how I feel after I eat matzah, like you said. But if I drink the
Yeah.
water and I ate dinner at
And
5,
it's so late at night.
and it's so
Yeah.
late at night, but it's one night a year. And I want to know that when I go out on date night, and once in a while I'll eat late and I'll eat some bread and cheese and wine on date night, I'm also okay with that. And once in a blue moon, right? Like Yom Kippur, after Yom Kippur, I'm going to eat like a meal, not a crazy meal, but I'm going to eat even though it's late at night. And it's totally okay because our bodies are a miracle. They're a miracle. And you don't have to be afraid anymore, because I promise, even if the scale is up a kilo after that first day, but you followed that plan, the next day it's off. The next day it's gone. It doesn't really exist. It is truly never, you're never going to be punished by doing it intentionally the right way. Unless you speak to your doctor and you have other concerns, you know, but like my kids who are gluten-free struggle through the oat matzah. They struggle through it. Is not delicious. They struggle through that kazait, and they only eat potato matzah for the rest of Pesach. They don't even wash like the rest of Pesach. They'll like take a bite because they don't have to have a full kazait, right? Like also there's lots of different matzahs. I get the high fiber matzah, but some years my husband uses the very thick Sephardi matzah. Do you know a kazait is actually only this big of the thick Sephardi matzah? So if I eat from his matzah, it's only this big. It's not a whole matzah. So there's a lot of different things here to play with. And the water is the key when not feeling gross with the matzah. It's really pacing the water. Also with the wine, I do a cheekful, a full cheek, and I swallow it and then I refill it this time. And again, speak to your local Orthodox rabbi. I'm not a paskin. I'm not like deciding halacha here.
Right.
But there are a lot of ways and there are a lot of opinions. And the last thing that we need to be doing is being anxious, like you said, sitting down food. So imagine if every meal between now and then, you did 30 seconds whenever you remember. Because it's easy to say, I'll do 30 seconds before I start every meal. We're halfway through the meal. Like I didn't even say a blessing, let alone do 30 seconds, okay? So like whenever you remember, but you start putting it on your agenda, once a day, I'm going to start practicing sitting down at the table being like, there's no anxiety around, like food is not some, eating is not anxiety. Eating is, what did you say? What did you say? Got to practice it. Eating is sensational. Eating is satisfying. Eating is positive. It gives me pleasure and energy, you know?
I also just had one, I'm sorry, I have to go very soon,
Yes.
but I'm gonna,
Awesome.
before I sign out, and then I'll let other people speak, because I feel like I've done a lot of speaking. So you asked like, how hungry am I, right?
Yeah.
So, and you also said, we did a body scan before, and like that made me feel less hungry. So it just came, so it made me think that like, how hungry am I? You don't always know the answer to that. So
Yeah.
you have to ask yourself, how can I get to a place where I know how hungry I am? I could do a body scan on
Exactly.
myself. Yeah.
And that's why I believe in the plated framework that we talk about in Thrive Well. And that's not, it's having that water and pausing, pace, P-A-C-E, pause, appreciate, I am going to eat now, even if I'm going to eat while at my desk. You know, there are so many women who don't make even the step to get their food. Come on, Firma said she even skipped meals this week because it was like, right? Every time now you do have a meal, it's like, wow, I did that for myself. I'm appreciating that. Then do a quick scan. It took under 30 seconds. How hungry am I? Today, after I finished breakfast, I came back from my walk and I was like, I am hungry. And I was like, really? You just had breakfast? I did a body scan, just quickly, like imagine just that like grocery store red lights scanning the body down. I'm like, oh no, I'm not hungry. I'm excited about the mindfulness class today and the master class. And I'm so excited I'm teaching this class today and it's coming today. It's finally here. Okay. Yeah. That's what I'm feeling. I'm not hungry. Have a wonderful day.
You
We're
too.
going to finish. I'm going to stay on. I have another 15 minutes here. So let's answer some more questions. Rivka, AJ, Adina, Meira, Lynn, who has a question
Just
from us?
remind me, what was the rest of that pause? Pause,
Pace,
appreciate.
pause, appreciate, see, check in, E, enjoy your food, eat.
Bye.
So something I realized actually,
Yeah.
it's so funny that this class came when it did, because I was just thinking of this over the past 2 weeks. And one of the reasons why I said eating was a chore, aside from like, making the time to prepare, but
Yeah.
so there's that, like you could get, if, you could get it on a schedule, and anytime something happens where there's an event at night or a kid has something go on, then like it's off schedule, and then you don't have that healthy food.
Right.
So that's the annoying part. But I was also thinking about, like I will tend to like delay breakfast as long as possible, just because I feel like when I wake up, like I don't think I'm hungry, and okay, may as well, like before I get stuff, before the kids go off to school, I'll throw in a little laundry, I'll clear up the dishes from the drainer that were,
Yeah.
whatever, any of that stuff. And then I realize it's like 10:30 and I'm ravenous. So
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily aware of my hunger, but I know, like, I think I started trying to keep to certain times since I realized I'm not aware, or I'm not mindful. So I have to start eating breakfast on time. And then I also realized I have a certain schedule to my work day, and I eat at
Yeah.
certain times during the day. And when I'm out of that, like, that's why I think the weekends are so hard, because I don't have that schedule, and I don't know when I'm supposed to eat. And I don't realize I'm supposed to eat until I'm beyond hungry. So part of
Yes.
what you were telling us today, taking that body scan, I think the first step for me is just to like make a schedule for myself on the days that it's not a normal day,
For sure. And that's taking that diamond and just grind it up, right? Okay, so I'm not ready to let my body, and this is where I love the idea of intuitive eating, but I disagree with the implementation almost always around intuitive eating. And that's, most of us don't live in a balloon. Like I work, I have Zoom classes, I have this thing. I'm not always leaving this 40 minutes for lunch at the same time every day. A teacher has to leave that time for lunch every day, right? You can't take your lunch into the classroom and be like, eating your carrots while you're teaching. I can't be doing that on Zoom. So sometimes we do need to schedule our food to make sure that we're not getting below that level 3 hunger. Because when we go below that level 3 hunger, we're not going to make good decisions. And that includes if you're staying up till 2 a.m., maybe, and you eat dinner at 6, maybe at 8 p.m., you need to schedule a snack, a vegetables or something, or a bowl of soup, because you're getting by 2 a.m., by 1 a.m. to really hungry and you're not sleeping. Okay. And then you're making, a handful of nuts or a piece of chocolate, which you not really want. But if you were at a level 5, you'd go to sleep. When we have a framework and we have permission to break the framework down and to just dissolve it into real life, it's like the most freeing thing ever. And that's what you learn when you really do food journaling the Thrive Well way, is like, it's about thriving well. It's not about checking the box. I got all my macros. I got my plate perfect. It's, well, did that work for me? Did I go from a level 3 hunger or a level 4 hunger to level 8 satisfaction? And then especially we're going into Shabbos, and then we're going into Purim, and then we're going into Shabbos and 2 Shabboses and Pesach. And we're going to be very busy, and we're going to be assessing how clean is my house? How ready am I for Pesach? What's my work schedule like? What are the kids doing? We need to model for them putting our own mask on, getting that air in, grinding up our own diamonds, because if we don't do it, we are going to imprint on them our relationship with food. Was that helpful, Rivka?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So make a schedule. Okay, guys, I have 5 minutes to answer any last questions. AJ and Adina, I didn't hear from you guys today. If you have any questions, Rivka, Alana, I set aside another 5 minutes for any questions. So if anybody has anything to ask or a takeaway that you had, an insight you want to share, I'm here. Okay. Adina, AJ, Rivka, Alana, anybody have a last question, a last insight, something you took away from today? What did you take? Better question. What did you take away from today?
Well, one thing you mentioned about being mindful is usually when we're eating a treat, we're not mindful.
Yeah.
So just like with the tea, we were mindful to make that bracha, to feel the warmth, feel it going down our throat. If we actually do want that treat and save it for a time, not when we're super hungry, not just to fill us up, but when we actually are mindful and want that little treat, we'll enjoy that better, and we probably won't have the issue with overeating on that treat.
Yeah, exactly. Now imagine how that would change your life if like that's the diamond of the people who can stop at a piece of chocolate because they spent like that time so enjoying that piece of chocolate. And very often when I feel an urge, we didn't get to urges. I wanted to cover urges today. We didn't get to urges, but when you feel that urge to eat something specific, an urge is like, oh, I really want pizza. Ask yourself first, am I hungry? Am I hungry? Okay. If I'm at a 6, 7 hunger, then it's for sure emotional. I need to check in like, oh, what's my mental association with pizza? For me, it's vacation mode. Like pizza is like, a reward for homework, whatever. It's totally has emotional association. Then if I actually do want to choose to eat pizza, I'm going to wait till I'm physically hungry, have also healthy food around it with me, and be really mindful of enjoying that piece of pizza. And I'm going to eat less. How do I know I'm in trouble? When I'm eating the pizza while I'm putting the kids to bed, while I'm doing 8 other things, I'm not even bothering to warm it up, and you eat cold pizza, right? You can eat like, if you're eating cold pizza, you can way overeat on it because you're really trying to hot wire the car. You're like, I want to get the good feeling I'm going to get from eating pizza, but I'm not willing to put in the work to be mindful. That's how we end up eating like crazy volumes of junk food. We want the satisfaction, but we're not willing to put in the work of pausing and pacing and like crust, the cheese, whatever. Because then we'd be like, oh, the sauce and the cheese would be just as good on broccoli. Like, I don't actually need the pizza crust. Like, yeah. But when we're just in our brain and not in our body, it's a totally different experience. Okay. Have to remember to ask myself, what would be the kindest thing that I could do for myself right now? I usually just keep enjoying the moment and have a harder time thinking about the future. Also, perceived hunger level is usually higher after I eat than before. Ooh, that is really interesting. I would love to hear more about that. If your perceived hunger is more after you eat, so there's a few reasons why that could be. Number one is you're completely disassociating from your body. That's why I like to have breakfast within 30 minutes of waking up. If I don't, I won't feel that I'm hungry till like 11:30, like 10, and then I'll be very hungry. So if I have like, I make a quick, so right now I have like a system where I like shake up a yummy chocolate protein shake with water, and I drink that within 30 minutes of waking up. And then I go about all my other morning stuff. And then I finish breakfast at like 9. Like I eat the rest of my breakfast at 9, but then I'm actually really hungry at 9 because I started. So it could be that you're going too long between meals. That's one option. The second option is you're not starting your meal with water and getting those juices going. You're like maybe not paying attention. And so you had the experience of eating, but not the satisfaction. That can happen very often. I've had a lot of clients who like, because they eat while they're distracted, they only like were mindful of like 2 or 3 bites of what they ate. And they're like, oh, that was really good. Have you ever like started eating something and you're already thinking about seconds and you haven't even finished the first piece? Like sometimes that happens. And sometimes we end up overeating or needing bigger portions than we need because we weren't present in the experience. Also, it could be that you need, like, once you get started eating, you need to take a break and then go back for seconds, like drink some more water, take a break, come back, and then eat another portion if needed. And that, that's a really important system or framework that you can have that can help with that. And then if you want to make an appointment with me, we could talk about it and, get deeper into what your story is and what's going on. Okay, last minute. Alana, any takeaways from today? Dina, I haven't heard from you today. You're welcome to ask a question. Alana? And then we'll log off.
Okay. Well, the mindful part, like I drink my coffee and I got into the pumpkin spice. So like I took a moment to really like enjoy it. And I had spoken to you earlier today in our one-on-one, right, about how last night I had what normally would have be considered, well, it was like a binge, but I started becoming a little bit more aware and mindful because after like looking, I just sat down, owned it, ate it. I didn't feel gross afterwards. I was like slightly not happy that it wasn't aligned with my goals, but I also what I needed help with was getting unstuck from doing the same thing over and over and over, which is kind of what non-mindfulness puts you in,
Yeah.
So connecting it to that's what I'm walking away with the whole package, and also what everyone said, like what Froma said about before about making the time. You see, I have like 2 kids here. They were all over me like during the thing, and I'm trying to not have the complete guilt that I'm not nursing them right now back to health, but trying to make the time for myself. And the big take
That's going to give to them more, because that
Right.
time for yourself isn't at their expense. It's so that when you go back at the end of the day,
Sure.
you're not going to be a dish rag.
So yes. And the big takeaway was that even if a little bit of the diamond, whatever gets in, that it's still worth crushing up all the diamonds, that it's not worth just saying, forget it. I won't even bother drinking it because what's the point? So
Because if it was your kid, you would crush up all the diamonds.
Correct. No matter how valuable the time is,
Yes.
or the time, I think. So.
Okay. Mwah. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And be in touch if you want to take this work deeper in my Thrive Well program. And for all of you who are currently in it, it was so great to see you. And for everybody in group coaching, I'll see you tomorrow.